too late to think of any words that may bring you back to earth. We spin rope around your waist. You turn, you smile, you float away. 'Cause you couldn't find a better place to waste all your time. To waste your time. And you couldn't find a better place to waste all your time tonight.
All right. Welcome to the first episode of the Fascination Street podcast. My name is Antonio Longo. I am from Long Island, New York. Been playing music on Long Island. Actually, I did the math. It's over 25 years now, which is kind of scary. And I am joined today with my buddy Sam Hoyos, who is the, oh God, where do I start? Many a band's musician, a friend, a songwriter, a podcaster for the Red River podcast. His band, Playing Dead, is probably my favorite band on Long Island at this current time, and has been for a while.
That'll change very soon.
He also does a band called Cover Me Bad, which pops up around Halloween time usually.
I know, except this year, unfortunately.
Yeah, that was, well, you know, we're going to give that one to COVID.
Yeah.
Shove it up its butt. But, I asked Sam to be on this podcast because he is another music nut like myself. And we always come around to The Cure. And, you know, I think the problem with discussing The Cure on any podcast is where do you fit them into what your discussion is? And how deep can you go when they've got a body of music that's 40 years long? You know,
40 years long, but the one thing that I will say about them that makes it easier to break down is they don't really make albums that often or as much as they used to.
Right.
So in those 40 years, there's only 13 studio albums. So at this point, you can really kind of assess those records. Let me shut this fucking thing off.
Cell phones.
You know, so you can... you can break it down now for sure. Obviously, they have some live stuff and a couple of like compilations, I think.
Yeah, you know, so it's like, yeah, there's the studio albums. Then you know, like Mixed Up is not considered a studio album. Then you've got, you know, kind of, you know, the album that we're going to also focus on today, which is their first record, Three Imaginary Boys, also then came out later as another album, so it's like that one's not even considered in the 13, but it's two.
I didn't even know.
Like, yeah,
I didn't know that at all.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that, you know. All right, so we're talking. All right, well, I was born 78.
78.
So you're also 78. Yep. So to think they're being birthed. Actually, they're already a band by the time that we're, you know, our parents are making sweet love. So. You know,
I'd like to think it wasn't that sweet.
Yeah. Backseat of a Volkswagen. So you're talking 76, they're already writing songs. And then, you know, 78 and 79, they're dropping their first album in the UK and then in the US. And like, it's crazy to like, so now with 13 studio albums, but the first one was technically 2. Because you didn't have the big songs on it, like Boys Don't Cry and stuff was added later. And let's see, what else is considered? I mean, their greatest hits is Ridiculous, which has a bonus track on it. They've got, you know, movie soundtrack songs. So even though it's only 13 albums in that 40 years, they definitely sprinkled themselves around a lot in that.
And always, you know, one of the best live shows you can go see. And it's usually when I go see them, it's like always like an evening with The Cure. Because it's like we're going to play 3 hours and that's just the fucking way it is.
Yeah. I mean, you know, you don't go see The Cure to like check out the opening bands. We got to get there early.
Yeah.
So it's... you know, it's a band that I felt like I wanted to. I guess we had bounced around the idea of doing a Cure episode with Red River, and then, you know, you've always got so much going on. And then I was like, well, maybe I'll break it down because I think it's too much to do in one.
It is.
episode.
It is a lot
for sure. And that was, you know, like if you hyper focus on one record, then it's easier. Then it's like, okay, we're going to talk about this, because, you know, once the catalog is that big, and it just, you know, you could never really give the dedication to the record that you need. So something like this is cool. You know, if you're going to break down discographies, you know, we kick it off with the first one.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's probably definitely not my first Cure record I've heard, and I'm sure it wasn't yours because age-wise, you know.
No, so my relationship with the Cure, man, I'm trying to remember, you know, I think just like everyone else, you eventually hear something on MTV and you're like, "Oh, that's pretty cool." But
Right.
like it wasn't like, I think I was too into Metallica and like too into like heavy music to really kind of like embrace this music right away. And then as the videos kept going on, and you know, the earworms kept coming up, you're like, okay, this is kind of cool. And then from there, I think everyone hears Just Like Heaven, and you're just like, oh, this is like magic. This is like magic. Like, what the fuck is this? This is so weird, you know? And you have some of your friends that are, you know, make fun of you for listening to this or the Smiths. And then you have your other friends that are like, yeah, I like the fucking Cure too, man. They're so cool.
I feel like they are one of the bands that the toughest of tough guys have no problem saying that they like.
Yeah.
You know, or even hip hop artists.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, Toby from H2O has Robert Smith tattooed on his ass. You know,
Yeah.
so it's like, and then
Sheer Terror.
yeah, exactly. Sheer Terror covers them, and then they get inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame last year by Trent Reznor.
Yeah.
I mean, the impact that he made on that they made on him was huge. So it's like now you're going, wait, so he's saying without the Cure, Nine Inch Nails really wouldn't be Nine Inch Nails? Because who's putting those two really in the same bucket? I mean,
Yeah.
it's the same fan base.
Sure.
But from a musical standpoint, it's, you know, it wouldn't have been my first thought.
No, absolutely.
Like when I heard they were going in,
Yeah.
and then I thought he was inducting them, and I was like, wow, like,
Yeah.
that's fucking awesome.
I guess it just goes under that, like, you know, stupid, I hate like terms, but it would be under like a goth thing. Like
Right.
if this was like 1989 or 1990, that's what it would be. It's like, oh, you guys are,
right.
you know,
Like they fell under that umbrella. But when I was listening to, I went and watched, but put it on, but I was really listening to when he inducted them.
okay.
And I'm thinking to myself, he talks about how he didn't hear them until Head on the Door album when he was in college in Cleveland. So he was already 18, a freshman in college, because there were no radio stations playing The Cure in bumfuck Pennsylvania.
For sure.
So, and then he was saying how what the great thing is, he fell in love with this band and there was already a back catalog to go through.
Yeah.
So, and that's the same thing for us. It's like, you know, I discovered The Cure obviously way later, even later probably than most people because of my upbringing. So I grew up in a very religious home. I kind of had to hide all my records and cassettes in like Christian band leaflets. You know, so for me, I had to sneak MTV on late at night, really low. I had to find a way to get to a record store because I couldn't let my mom take me. My mom would only take me to a Christian bookstore to buy Stryper albums.
Okay. All right.
You know, so it's like I loved metal and I'm listening, you know, I'm hiding Motley Crue and, you know, Poison and Guns N' Roses with my Stryper stuff and like.
Did your mom really like Stryper?
No, she didn't. I mean, but she would rather that than me listening to Motley Crue.
Yeah.
Because, you know, their cover of the album is Shout at the Devil.
Yeah,
and Stryper's is To Hell with the Devil.
To Hell with the
Devil.
So
she's picking that side of things. So, you know, it really wasn't until I kind of got into the Long Island hardcore scene and my mom was kind of accepting of that because, for one, most of those bands I grew up listening to in the scene, it was 7 inches. So it wasn't cassettes, it wasn't CDs, and I had a really old crappy record player. I barely could listen to it, but I would still buy it because that's all the band had. And it wasn't until years later that I could then go listen to it like blasting on my own stereo. but she couldn't really see what they were. It wasn't on MTV. It wasn't in the news. It was, she doesn't know what silent majority is. I mean, she thinks it's a political statement. So mind over matter, to her, that was, oh, that's a positive thing to say. So I discovered The Cure kind of once I finally was 17. I was in a band, Scarab, which was like my first serious band I was playing bass in. And
I just hung out with Milan.
did you?
Yeah.
I love that dude. And Melanie was big into the Smiths. I had heard The Cure and liked The Cure, but now I was out of my house. I was becoming a man, quote unquote. Now, I mean, one of the first things I did, we were hitting the road before I was 18, So I'm driving cross country in Scarab with Inside, going to California for the first time. And now we're listening to The Cure. We're listening to all this stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, it's not just these songs, the singles you're hearing on the radio. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, there's a whole body of work that's like this.
Yeah, you get to, like, on a long drive like that, you get to enjoy the deep cuts. And this is a band that's really full of deep cuts.
Oh, yeah. Insane amount of deep cuts. You can tell they leave a lot on the cutting room floor when they do a record.
Yeah, and but also, the songs that turned out to be singles, they really are fucking great. It's one of those things where it's like, you take a band like Led Zeppelin, you're like, Stairway is whatever.
Right.
But like, you take The Cure and it's like, Pictures of You. It's like, yeah, well, that's a fucking great song.
Right.
That's why it's a single. But they also do have so many great deep cuts. It was, I know later on we're going to talk about our 5 favorite songs. So it was,
we'll get into that.
It was definitely an undertaking.
Yeah, you're right, because there are those bands like, all right, so The Cure is my favorite band, but if you're going to throw in some of my others' favorites, right there in my top 3 is Jimmy Eat World. And now you think about Jimmy Eat World, and you think about In the Middle, and it's like, okay, well, that was a single that literally was written to be a single, almost as a joke. And, I love them to pieces, and they'll still stand up for the song, because the song lyrically and where it came from is a great story, about a girl who wrote them a letter, and felt like she wasn't punk. People would tell her she wasn't punk enough to listen to this, and she wasn't, cool enough to be popular. And she felt like she was in the middle of that. And Jimmy Eat World was a band that like meant a lot to her. So I was like, cool, you wrote this. But when they close with that song, they're like, God damn it, we got to play it again. When The Cure plays Just Like Heaven or Pictures of You, you're not tired of hearing it. You don't think it's, and I doubt he's like, oh, God damn it, again. Because, it's really, they're a band that really writes from the gut.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what they closed with last time I saw them, and I don't remember.
The Cure or Jimmy World?
Oh, no, Jimmy World always closed with it.
Which is great, because I've got time to get to my car before everybody else, because I'm like, I don't need to hear in the middle.
Yeah.
You played all the songs I wanted to hear, that you were fantastic. I got my T-shirt. See you later.
Yeah.
Everyone else can still like jump around to that song, and I'm fine.
For sure. Yeah. I don't mind missing that one for sure.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm out.
Especially like as a songwriter, when you really break down the song, it's just like, man, it's like, this is amazing. It's just so simple. It's just the solo. Maybe that's like the hard part, but it's man, when you play that song, when Jimmy World does the middle, it's it's still kind of magical, just because everyone in like whatever place,
no matter where you are, when everybody goes and sings along with one song and is in unison, there's like a moment.
Yeah, there's a moment, because you almost stop. You're like, oh, maybe this is a great song. You just like, you forget, and you're like, oh yeah, like everyone's like losing their shit. Cool.
Yeah. But the Cure definitely. Not that you have to be apologetic about it, but you get your haters that are like, oh, love song, that song's terrible, like I'm sure they regret writing that song. I'm like, no, I'm sure they don't.
Yeah.
I'm like, I regret that 311 covered it, because they're a pile of garbage. But that's gonna happen.
Nick Hexum is not doing the show now, thank you.
Damn it.
Yeah.
I'll never come original. So yeah, I didn't listen to Three Imaginary Boys till way later.
Way later.
in being into the Cure,
Way
because
later.
I think the first Cure CD I bought was Staring at the Sea.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
remember
That makes sense.
Tower Records, Massapequa. Actually, you know what? No, it might have been the Huntington one, because I think at the time Brian Diaz was working there. So we would go to that one, and sometimes we'd play kickball after they closed. But that's the first, I think, CD I bought, and I'm like, all right, now I've got my first record of theirs, and I'm
Yeah, it
going
makes sense. And with a band like that, by the time we heard it, or by the time we made that leap to buy it, it's nice to have a compilation like that, because those tentacles reach out to all the records.
Yeah.
So from there, you're like, oh, I really like 1015, or I really like this. And then from there, you're like, I'm going to go directly here. I'm going to go directly to the beginning, the middle, or the current stuff.
Right.
So
So it wasn't
yeah.
until later with like Killing an Arab, I'm like, oh, well, that was on the first record. But then I'm like, oh, no, it really wasn't once I became a fan. It was on the first US version, again, now, which is The Boys Don't Cry, not Three Imaginary Boys. And I kind of was thinking about this driving home today. I was like, I'm trying to think of things in reverse. All right. So they're from England. All right. Now, the records at the time in 79 when it came out that were the big albums were London Calling by The Clash. I didn't actually realize how many big records came out in 79. Pink Floyd's The Wall. I mean, whether you're a fan or not, it's big. I mean, I'm not a big
Really? That was
Floyd.
79?
79.
I thought it was 80.
Yeah.
Okay.
Off the Wall, Michael Jackson. Joy Division, but I don't like Joy Division, so I'm going to skip past that. No, I'm just kidding. I'm giving them the respect, but New Order's better. AC/DC, Highway to Hell. Van Halen 2. The Police. It's like, that's what's going on in... Now, that's super mainstream music. They're dropping their first record. They're not super mainstream yet, or they're not a big band yet. Now, they're dropping it in England. So, definitely a lot of Clash feels in that first
Oh, I think so.
Cure album, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, they were, they loved punk. They loved what was going on in that punk scene, but they also wanted to be them. So they weren't trying to be anything, but clearly you're going to pull influences from what you're listening to.
Yeah. That stuff. The first record for sure, Three Imaginary Boys. It's very like proto punk. Like definitely.
Yeah.
Like when I listened to it just recently again, I was like, yeah, this definitely has like a lot of flavors of the Clash. I mean, it's a completely different band, to be honest with you.
Oh,
it's not even like
is.
I think like later on they developed their sound and their production. The production is very big on what they went on to do later on, but this is like super raw, and it reminded me of what like bands from that era, from that side of the world later on did, like Arctic Monkeys or the Libertines. I'm like, you know what? This is definitely like that side of like that, almost like garage punk that they were doing,
Yeah. And it's funny because when you look back, I mean, one of the things, my favorite thing to do on YouTube is go look back at stuff that clearly I wasn't there for, and they got a lot of TV play. And when it comes to bands that have live concerts available on YouTube, The Cure is probably in the top 3. Like, sometimes I'll scroll for days and I'm like, there's live footage for days for, and a lot of really cool old stuff. And you see them. They're just like a lot of downstrokes, a lot of the drums following the bass line and the bop, bop, bops, like of what was going on with that, like, or like later that British punk kind of with that reggae feel that's kind of undertoned in
for
there.
Sure.
But I think the standout is Smith.
Oh, yeah.
And that's like one of the things that Trent Reznor said in inducting him into the Hall of Fame. He was saying Robert Smith's voice is an instrument, like kind of like unlike any other. And I think that's where the standout was. I mean, let's be real. I love the Clash. is there anything like if you isolate those vocals, or if you were to like throw someone else singing, okay, but Robert Smith is something you like that
Yeah.
cannot be mimicked.
No, for sure.
You know, you hear it and your head turns quickly.
Yeah.
People don't even aren't fans know that, oh, that's the Just Like Heaven guy.
Yep.
Even if you were to play them something.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
early.
Even back then, absolutely. And for me, you know, like going back to this record, it's funny because I guess this is the first episode of the podcast. Man, this is like probably my least favorite Cure record.
Really?
Yeah.
Out of all of them? Wow.
Yeah, it just because it just doesn't. It's you know, it's weird. You know, like some bands come out like Weezer. And they
Well,
drop,
yeah,
you know what I'm
they
saying?
punch
Like,
you in the
they
face.
punch you like in the first two records, and then they're like, "Oh, we forgot how to make a good record in the last 25 years." And the Cure seemed to have really gained momentum later on with other albums.
Right.
So yeah, that trajectory is funny. Like they were just getting their feet wet, and the band that you could hear on this record, there's some like highlights for me on it, but it's like a different band.
All right, so what's your favorite song on this record?
Man,
Not even hitting your top 5, but what's your favorite song on Three Imaginary Boys?
to be honest with you, it's got to be like the first like I think they hit it on 10:15 Saturday night.
Yeah.
The first few songs on this record, Accuracy.
Kind of surprised yours is not the same as mine.
You know, I'm going to say this. The best song, when I really look at the playlist right here, I might have to go with the title track. I think the title track is my favorite song on the record.
Wow. You did not mention my favorite song on the record.
What's that?
Object.
Okay. That was my third pick because I was going through the list. But when I really look at, like, they're not bad. I like 10:15. I like Accuracy. I like Grinding Halt. Object. Fucking hilarious Jimi Hendrix cover.
Oh, yeah.
Which later on they would do Purple Haze. And then after that, it's just Imaginary Boy. So, like, I like half the record. And there's some quirkiness in it. And it's still cool. It's not a bad record. But I those are the ones that I really like the most.
Yeah. Well, you brought me right back to my point, like roped me back in with what I was saying about them being a British band, and they were super obsessed with what was also going on with bands like Hendrix and Zeppelin, and you know, with that kind of like experimental rock mixed with what was going on punk wise with like the Clash and bands like that. So that's kind of where they were trying to meld, but that's what they were super into. And you could tell by, you know, again, a band that you would put side by side with the Clash at that point, probably playing for the same people, the same clubs, kind of thing. But now you're dropping a Hendrix song on there?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
You know, that's completely out of left field.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
So, you know, that's what's awesome.
And they played it like them at
Right.
that time.
Yes.
It wasn't like they did like a note by note type thing. It was just like, oh, this is like you would even, unless you listen to the lyrics,
You wouldn't even know.
you wouldn't even know. You're like, oh wait, this is Foxy Lady.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to be honest. First time I heard it, I didn't realize it.
Yeah.
You know, because again, the first time I heard it, you know, we're not talking Spotify, we're not talking smartphones. So you put an album on and you
Yeah.
let it roll. You pressed play and you did what you were doing, whether it was driving, hanging out with your friends, whatever it was. I mean, occasionally you'd get fancy and hit the shuffle button, but shuffling just one CD is not like you
Nah.
shuffling a playlist of
Yeah.
100 songs just to change it up.
And now, like, you know, we have every bit of information. You know, like this record's been around for what 41 years basically. By
Yeah.
now, like, you know what's on it. You
Right.
know, like when you first start listening to it before like the internet, you know, like let's say the early 90s, you just listen to it differently. You know, it's just you're not like Googling or like doing the Wikipedia of like the
Right.
stuff. So
Now, when you're okay, so let's imagine we're a U.S. band, we're U.S. musicians, we're from New York. You know, back in the day, I remember every one of my friends' bands, to them, quote unquote, making it was two things: having a label didn't
Yeah.
matter how big or small it was. It didn't matter. It's
100%.
Dude, I was pumped when Bob said he would put out the Prize Fighter CD, and we paid for the recording.
Yeah.
You know. So I thought, shout out to Bob Farmer.
That is hard facts right there.
So it's that, and then it's playing in Europe or getting a release over in Europe.
Sure.
So for them, I'm sure on the flip side, it was okay, cool. We got a record deal. There's a record here, but there's America.
Yeah.
You know,
Got to go to the States.
right. So now I don't know shit as far as the differences in the labels. I mean, there's multiple labels that put out these, but when this album then got changed around to Boys Don't Cry, they were calling it a compilation of singles because it was a bunch of songs that I guess they recorded afterwards or during that weren't on the album, mixed in with, I guess, their favorite cuts from the record, or what now an A&R from the U.S. thought would be hit in America.
Sure.
And whoever that guy was, he was completely right, because Boys Don't Cry is probably in their top 10 best songs when you look at most lists.
Well, I mean, listen, let me say this real quick.
Yeah.
So
I'm passing around the Boys Don't Cry LP.
you listen to this and automatically just the first two songs right off the bat right there, Jumping Someone Else's Train and Boys Don't Cry, like automatically.
Right.
You're like,
Now,
this is
yeah,
the
and they
shit.
didn't even start it off the same. So like they were like, we're not going to put the same first song. Like they jumbled it up completely. And I find that super interesting because I can't remember who it was. Was it Artie or George when they were talking about Mind Over Matter and not loving the order of the songs? I can't remember.
I don't remember.
It was... I can't remember if it was on Red River, I Rolled the World, or on Artie's Shepherd's podcast.
Yeah.
You know, but I remember one of them talking about how they didn't love the order of the songs and they wish they had rethought it, and you're not realizing how important it is when you're putting out a record. You know? So, I mean, because that jump-off song has got to be there. But then again, you also don't want to blow your load too early where people don't want to listen deep into it.
Yeah.
So you're trying to save something for
but
later.
that one right there, you know, for sure. Like you have Someone Else's Train on there to Boys Don't Cry.
Right.
You have Object, like all that first side's amazing, and then you start off the second one with Killing an Arab, which is a great song.
Right.
So these are all things that have. I feel like they're already leaps ahead of the.
And they ended with Three Imaginary Boys. That's the same.
Yeah.
So they ended with that on the, you know.
I just think that somewhere along the way, they have this way of writing a melody line on the guitar or piano later on that's super catchy, and you hear it, and it's almost like a Cure trademark where Robert Smith just has a way of like making four notes just stick through the whole song. You're just like, it's like so hummable, like, you know, like you hear Boys Don't Cry and it's like
Oh yeah, he's
infectious.
He's the master of two things, well, multiple things, but
Hair.
But in the hair. But in the guitar realm, for guys like us that are rhythm guitar players, he is our idol when it comes to leads.
Yeah.
Because simple, catchy lead. Because we've talked about this. I'm like, I can't play leads.
No, Dave laughs at me like whenever, like in my band, whenever, because usually I come up with like a lead part, and our guitar player plays it better because he's a much better guitar player than I am. But Dave's like, oh man, here comes with his one finger lead.
Right, exactly.
I'm just like, there.
Well, yeah, some of Robert Smith's greatest leads are like so like simple, and I'm like, oh, cool. I don't have to be fucking Steve Vai to play a guitar lead.
And you know, another great example of that, and I'll bring up Walter Schreifel's with Quicksand.
Yes.
When you think of Tom Capone and the stuff that he does on those Quicksand records, it's like, man, when you hear Dine Alone and then that drop comes in and he plays one note and you're like, that note is so good.
Yeah.
You know?
And you're literally like, you're ready to like, to just completely blow your load.
It's flavor.
Yeah.
And they're great at the flavor.
Yeah. It's, you know, it's one of those things where, you know, I don't think later in life, well, not to say that The Cure isn't an influence on me, because actually I really honed my bass skills by playing along with The Cure.
Great. Yeah.
You know,
Great
so
bass.
I would sit there and when I'm playing Fascination Street, and then all of a sudden I'm thinking I'm the greatest bass player in the world. You know, like do 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 do.
You know, you could
and I'm
fool
like,
someone, man.
I'm
If they
like,
hear
"What?"
that and they never heard Fascination Street,
Right,
they're
they'd
just
be
like,
like,
that's
"Yo,
pretty
this-
good, man.
This dude's sick.
Yeah.
I mean, I would literally sit there in front of my stereo with my bass and my headphones on and play To Cure live albums. And that's how I really honed my bass skills. But then later in life, now I don't think until like my last EP that I put out with Ordinary Life do I really feel that now I'm like, okay, Robert Smith's songwriting is definitely drizzled in these songs on this EP. You know, I mean, maybe in some other stuff, but it's like, the music, it, definitely wasn't a part of Taking Back Sunday. It
Yeah.
wasn't a part of The Prize Fighter. I mean, maybe lyrically, because I always tended to write on the darker side of
Yeah.
things, even when it sounded poppy. And he's the master of that. Now, are we fools for believing that? Because he's literally been with his high school sweetheart. And he writes some of the best heartache songs you've ever heard in your life.
Maybe he's cheating on her left and right.
That's not true, Robert. We don't really
Yeah.
believe that, I swear.
Not great.
No,
Now he's not coming on.
Well, I heard him say, and he's tough in interviews too. Like if you've ever seen interviews, he'll dance around stuff. Like he talks about, like he'll just go on his little rants, and he was saying how, how he's lost a lot of relationships before he wrote this album, and he was talking about wild mood swings. Now in my head, I'm going, well, you had the same relationship, so I feel like sometimes he will turn falling outs with maybe friends or family
Sure.
members
Yeah.
and tweak it enough where now it sounds like
Yeah.
me, singing along to that song after I have a bad breakup, and
Yeah. I mean, and that's that would be the brilliance of songwriting for sure. Where you just kind of because after a while, if your relationships are up to par,
Yeah.
you got to write about something. So you do have to take a different angle, and obviously he's been writing songs for fucking 40 plus years.
Yeah.
So you have to sometimes you got to tweak shit, and if you got to
Yeah. Now I know like him and Simon Gallup have had a rocky friendship. Simon joined the band when around the time of 17 Seconds. So after the first few records. So they're, I think, fourth album or so. Now Simon's left the band after that and has come back. He was Robert Smith's best man at his wedding. And then also as of within the last 4 or 5 years in interviews, Robert Smith has said, if Simon didn't want to do The Cure anymore, we wouldn't do The Cure anymore. So that's like, his guy. And I have a feeling a lot of that, sometimes I'm like, I wonder which one of these these songs are about
Yeah.
Simon. And it's cool because I get it. Like I always said, being in a band was like having 5 girlfriends.
Yeah.
It's not easy. Some rotate in and out.
Yeah.
You know how it is. But now, here's my question for you.
I said what was it? I said playing music is awesome. Being in a band is not so awesome.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Now, has Dave always been...
Yeah.
Okay, he has.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's
'Cause-
Simon.
Right. Exactly. Well, that's what I was going to say is I was like, I feel like he's your Simon Gallup because I feel like Dave's also... I mean, I'm not there for the songwriting,
Yeah.
but just as far as what he adds to the band and even just, the whole feel of, watching you guys, listening to you guys, I'm like, yeah, I feel like that's the only thing I couldn't separate.
Yeah.
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 I mean, that's what killed my band Ides. Like losing Scott Martin as a bass player was just like,
The best.
and
I
yeah.
love Scott.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
not even one of the greatest dudes ever
Yeah.
known, but he's a bass player.
Yeah.
And
oh yeah.
he puts input into the songwriting, and replacing that was very hard because not only does he have to click with the drummer,
Ides was great.
but
Those songs were really good.
I loved those songs.
Yeah, those songs were really
and it was
good.
like getting right there too.
Yeah.
And like losing that was like, punching a baby.
That was a good lineup.
Yeah, it was a great line. It's the best lineup I've ever played with. No offense to other people I've played with, but I mean, I was, I mean, I still love all those dudes, but I couldn't see the Cure being the Cure without Simon, and they were it without him. But it's also where they found is when they started getting like kind of dark and a little more experimental, and his bass lines sometimes really carry a song through. And sometimes they don't even change.
No, they don't they don't change at all. But and it's like, yeah, man, he's a huge part of it. And huge.
I mean, those were the bass players that I idolized was him and Nikki Sixx.
Yeah.
And both at one point, played the ridiculous Thunderbird crazy. And when I first put one of those basses on when I worked at Guitar Center, it was like so big. I was like, I could never play this.
Yeah, Nikki Sixx's bass looked super big. I don't know why.
It really
even Simon's too, right? They look like bigger than normal.
Yeah, but I mean, they're pretty big. I mean, I have one now, like an Epiphone version of one, but I'm also not the 110-pound skinny hardcore kid that I used to be either. So I'm like, all right, it doesn't look so big on me. But I remember playing one at Guitar Center and being like, I look like a moron. Yeah. like, I can't buy this. I'm just going to go get a Fender P bass. Like every other nerd. So now I want to jump into top 5 here.
Sure.
Let's dive a little bit. I mean, so we've talked about that first record. I mean, it kicked off. I get why they got another album. I mean, to be honest with you, if Boys Don't Cry and Killing an Arab don't make it to the US release, I don't know how far that record might have taken.
Yeah, those two songs really make a difference because they make the other ones look good.
Right.
It's like when you're like, medium looking and like you stand next to like, a better looking friend. Right. It's like, oh, these guys are all right,
Yeah,
it's like, but if you stand next to another ugly dude, they're just like, oh, these guys are not that cool.
Right.
So, I had no idea actually the story of it until we were talking about doing this show, because a lot of their earlier stuff, like I guess that makes sense that they had the U.S. release, and this. Man, when you look at this track listing, it works. And Boys Don't Cry is like, every now and then, because you write songs. Sometimes you write a song, you're like, oh, this is definitely going to be the song. Like this is the single.
This is it.
This is it. Like
this is the one everyone's going to sing along to.
Yeah. We did like, when we did Start Today on the last record, or like Everything Under the Sun, I'm like, okay. I think people will like this song the most, so this is the one we'll focus on first. And Boys Don't Cry is definitely that song.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny when you go on Spotify and you listen to Three Imaginary Boys, it then has like the super edition that has a lot of these songs on it and demo versions. And it's got a demo version of Boys Don't Cry that definitely is not what we heard. Mm-hmm. Like it's a little more like when he's singing it, he's not attacking the words as much. And then again, I'm like, well, how demoed was this? Was this literally just like, okay, I need to get these lyrics now before I forget them? Or is that how they were going to hear it? So did the producer get it there? To the point of what we heard. But whatever the magic was, I mean, my son just turned 10 years old yesterday. He loves The Cure, and you can give him Boys Don't Cry every day, and he's a happy kid.
Cool. Great bridge.
Yeah.
That bridge kicks ass when it gets you right to the top and then goes right back to that verse. You're like, that's songwriting.
Well, again, I've been teaching him how to play guitar. Okay. So the simplicity of that lead is almost like, I feel like he goes to me, all right, I can, like, that seems feasible.
Yeah.
Like, I think I can accomplish that.
Sure.
And if I can, I'm accomplishing a lead on a Cure song, one of my favorite songs. Yeah. So, there's something beautiful about that.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, like
when you first like start playing guitar and like you play something the way you hear a song, you're like, holy shit. Yeah. Did I just do that?
That's what I did.
I just did that. How did I do that?
Oh yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. When I figured out the bass line from Fascination Street, and I'm like letting that groove slide, and I'm like, yo, are you kidding me? Yeah. Like, Flea who?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. that's one hell of a groove. So.
Yeah, and it's just like it's there. So we've touched on that song. We've touched on kind of like our love for them. Let's hit top 5 now. I'm going to be rotating in and out. People that are going to be on different episodes. I'm obviously going to be on every one. So I'm going to have you give me your top 5 for your favorite Cure songs. I'm going to kind of hold off on mine because I don't want to blow my load, but I'm going to give you my top 5 deep cuts.
Okay.
All right. So let's hit your top 5 in any order, or you got them in fave? Least fave? I mean, I know that's tough. I'm the kind of guy where everyone's like, well, what's your favorite song? I'm like, I'll give you 3,
Yeah. Yeah, that's too tough, to be honest with you. Like, if I hear any one of these 5, and it's from my 2 favorite albums, I mean, that's what I'm noticing here.
Yeah, I know that.
So A Letter to Elise. I mean,
Okay.
goddamn, like that is. I mean that I can't say. I don't even know what to say about that song. That song's one of the best songs ever written. Just man, it makes me feel certain things. I was probably like 14 when that song came out, and you're discovering girls and heartbreak and all that other stuff, and that song just hit at the right time. So Letter to Elise.
Letter to Elise it's magical poetry.
Yeah.
It is beautiful guitar parts, fantastic production. I mean, like, there's nothing wrong with it.
No.
I mean, it's literally perfect. And when I think about how much I love that song, when I saw that it was on the track listing for a Sensefield record, which is a band that I adore, and I was like, how the fuck are they going to pull that off? And it's amazing. Now, not many bands can do that. Do you know that version?
No.
Have you heard it? Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe I have.
You're listening to it on your drive home.
Okay.
Because again, it's magical. And I think
just the right chord changes too. Like I know that on occasion, like he changed the patterns like in the middle of the song. Like he's really good at just adding that one different chord later on in the song. You're just like, yes.
Right.
I like that. I don't know what just happened, but it's fucking magic.
But you made me feel something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that goddamn song.
Yeah, well, I think if you're talented enough to pull it off, it's hard to fuck up that song because the song is so perfectly written.
Yeah.
So that's I mean, is it because Sensefield's great? I'm gonna say yes because I love them, but also I can't listen to 311 Cover the Cure as we follow back around to that. So it's not just about the song.
Sure.
But I can't believe they pulled that song off, and you need to hear it for sure.
All right, so another song for my top 5 is A Night Like This.
Okay.
Which is kind of like a deep cut, I guess, I know the Smashing Pumpkins did a really cool cover of it, which I love. It's on the Head.
Head on the Door, yeah.
It is, right?
Yep.
Which is
it might be my favorite song on that record, actually.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah.
And again, sometimes it's like, well, what mood am I in?
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, did I just break up with someone?
Yeah.
Am I on a road trip? I mean, it's like, it's tough.
Yeah, for sure. So I love that song. So I got 3 left. Wish.
Okay.
Wish off of Wish. Man, the single picking on that is so great. It's really hard to do. Like I remember trying to play it. It's up there with like a Peter Buck type lead from REM. Like it's just so perfectly played and just a magical song off of Wish.
Yeah, definitely.
My last 2, Close to Me.
Okay, you like that groove?
I do. I don't know, man. It's just great. And so many people do these covers. Get Up Kids do
Oh, yeah.
cover that.
I mean, the Get Up Kids nailed that
it.
song.
And they still play it live.
Oh, yeah.
They always
I
play it
love
live.
when they
Yeah,
play it live.
yeah. You just do like the ding, 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 ding. Yeah. And my last song, which I think is the quintessential Cure song, it's the one that will always make me like if I could pick one song to listen to from The Cure forever, it's In Between Days.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, didn't see that coming.
Yeah, I think it's the perfect fucking Cure song. I think it embodies everything about them in those 3 minutes or whatever.
Right, just enough pop.
Yeah, it's
Just enough
fucking
sad,
great. The chorus,
Just
yeah,
enough. I mean, yeah, it's
so memorable.
yeah. I mean, you groove to it.
Yeah.
You can fall asleep to it. You can
Yeah.
drive to it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. I mean, I'm one of those people that I make playlists for everything. you know, again, I have my driving playlist. When I thought I was going to run and work out, I had one of those playlists. You've got your like chill mood one. I'll find the same Cure songs on multiple of those playlists, and I'm like, wow. I mean, maybe that's why they're my favorite band, or maybe that's why they've had so much success in 40 years.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I just feel like the way I approach this list is if I was going to make somebody a 5-song playlist on a band that they've never heard.
Right.
And I wanted to cover all the corners that I feel like they represented.
But you only covered 2 records.
Only 2 records, but I feel like, those are my 2 favorites. And, I did have like honorable mentions.
Oh, yeah.
As far as like deep cuts. So There Is No If off of Blood Flowers is one of the best, I guess I would say modern day Cure stuff, but I mean, it's already 20 years old.
Yeah.
But that's a great one. Mint
But
Car.
you're talking that's way in their later
2000.
catalog. So
that was 2000. Yeah.
So not just year wise, but in the catalog.
In the catalog, yeah. Mint Car off of the often overlooked Wild Mood Swings.
Well, that list that you had posted had that as the worst Cure album, right?
No, they had
Oh no,
the last one.
They had self.
Or maybe it was self-titled.
Yeah, but Blood Flowers was, I think, like
no, it was
the second to last.
third.
It was the third.
Yeah, third.
And I was like, really?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't hate any of their albums, but you're going to tell me that the top is better than Blood Flowers?
No.
And I'm like, I can't see that.
I can't either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think people, again, want to hate it because it's like maybe popular to hate it because they wanted it to be something else. But that was one of the releases for Record Store Day on Picture Vinyl. And I got there 2 hours before the record store opened because I was like, I need to get this.
It was a big deal.
Yeah.
It was 4 years after Wild Moods, I think 4 years. And it was a big deal. It's like, holy shit, a new Cure record. And I don't actually know why they consider it a trilogy, which is Pornography, Disintegration, and Blood Flowers. Do you know why?
I don't know what the tie is. It's one of those things where you look into it and you hear a couple different things. And I'm like, unless I find it written or Robert Smith saying it, I'm kind of like, I don't know.
I bought the DVD. So they were doing what they talked about as being the trilogy.
Right.
So back when we bought live DVDs before YouTube. And those were the 3 records that they played. I don't really know. I'm sure he said it somewhere, but so that was a big deal. They said it was like the end of a trilogy. And then there's a song actually that I posted today. It's a B-side from Wish. It's called Play. And it's one of the songs that I listened to a lot on the box set, Join the Dots. Mm-hmm. So that came out in 2005. There was 4 CDs, I remember. And it was all from the era. So it was like the beginning era, the kind of like Head on the Door era, then the Wish, and then like the later stuff. So it was all these B-sides. And I would always listen to CD3, which I would imagine is from the era that I love the most. And the song Play was on there, and it's goddamn one of the best. Song. Yeah, it's such a great song. So those are my deep cuts.
Well, I mean, I've heard him speak about Wish a lot. Like Head on the Door, Wish, and Disintegration seem to also kind of be the mood of the Cure, even though they're very different. Going into Wish, it's like he was trying to get himself out of the funk. And, sometimes, you write those sad songs, you record those like deep, meaningful records. Sometimes it puts you in that place. Because even us as fans, I could be in a completely fine mood And I hear The Forest, and I feel like I get into that same funk that he was in when he was writing it down.
Yeah.
Not that I leave in a bad mood or it makes me in a bad mood, but you feel it,
Yeah.
like, so it's interesting. Like, I know they were kind of like, he was trying to cheer himself up, and he ended up writing one of the greatest pop, I mean, is it pop? I mean, again,
I don't know about that one.
I mean, again,
enough.
they get called so many different things. I mean,
Yeah.
it's definitely not new wave for a band that gets coined with that phrase. When you listen to really like new wave stuff, it's
Oh
not The
yeah,
Cure
no,
at all.
absolutely not. No.
So, I mean, then again, it's like, I mean, what did the phrase emo become based off of, like Sunny Day Real Estate and,
Not even like Rites of Spring.
right to, yeah, because what you're calling it now, I mean, that,
Oh, I don't even know.
or
Yeah.
just even in the last 10 years is
Yeah.
nothing like those bands. I mean, most of the bands are calling emo couldn't tie Jeremy Enix's shoes.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
But I'm always like, they're not a new wave band. They're not a goth band, because
Yeah,
goth is not really a
they're-
type of music. It's
They're
almost
really, they're the
scene.
Cure.
right.
They really are the Cure.
Well, this is another thing that I wrote down from the that Trent Reznor said. He said, in 40 years, the Cure have been in and out of fashion so many times
It's true.
that they transcend fashion.
Yeah.
And I was like, now he wasn't talking about clothes, but I was like, wow, you fucking nailed it on that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you see it like in our lifetime. Like, they were popular. They caught that, and then they went back down, and it's just this thing. But they always did their thing. It's just sometimes the masses, like every year, like a 15-year-old person would hear a Cure song, like wherever they were at, whether it's like, Disintegration or like Wish or whatever, and you're like, oh, I like this. And it just kept going in and out, for sure. Yeah. And they, I think REM had like that same career,
Right. REM's a tough one for me because I liked them.
Yeah.
And then the older I got, the more I didn't like them.
Sure.
And I was like, wow, is it me changing what I like? Is it, well, I mean, the older we get, the more stuff we listen to.
Yeah.
The more we get other stuff we get into, new bands, this, that, and the other thing. Now, I mean, for a long time, I was set in my ways. I mean,
yeah, I thought Downset was good, and then I was like, you know what?
Yeah.
I don't think I can listen to Anger anymore.
But there's also sometimes I'm like, if it came out like after 2000, I don't want to fucking hear it.
Yeah.
Like there's always that, oh, this was better, that was better, but I've forced myself, and I think that's because of streaming sites.
Oh, yeah.
And that's where
That's
for
the
someone
beauty
that
of
fought it for so hard, I'm like, kudos. Well, not only that, not just that, but even when I was trying to get my son into The Cure, I made him a playlist of The Cure, and I'm like, it's better than having to go burn a CD or whatever. And now I'm like, oh, this is when I have this stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
I own these albums because, I mean, I know you guys can't see it, but I put all my Cure LPs on the table here. This is not even considering the 7 inches. But I still buy the stuff.
Sure.
I still support. I'm also wearing a Cure t-shirt. I mean, I tried to make sure when the quarantine started, I was like, okay, what bands was I supposed to go see? I had tickets for Ministry. I had tickets for, oh my God, Against Me. Like, I went out, Brian Fallon. I actually made sure I went to all of their sites and purchased merch because I was like, all right, I'm not going. I want these bands to still be bands when we can go see live music again. I'm still listening to this on the regular. Let me buy some merch. Let me buy, some vinyl, a t-shirt, whatever it may be. Pay to watch one of the live streams.
Those are fun.
So like it's one of those things where I'm still supporting it in many ways, and I've owned every Cure album probably multiple times on multiple medias between cassette. And
Yeah,
whatnot.
absolutely.
So like streaming, I'm loving that I can just send people stuff, and it's not all on there.
No,
but-
yeah, but the fact that you could send stuff, the fact that I could basically be like, hey, have you ever heard this? And you say no, and then I send you a playlist of this.
Right.
It only benefits the band.
Yeah, like sending you the cover of that letter to release. I know you can drive home and listen to it. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, that's great.
Yeah.
It's not even like I have to hand you a CD and be like, oh, it's
Yeah.
track 7.
And I think eventually the streaming revenue will catch up and all the bands are going to get compensated because it's only getting better.
Yeah, no,
And I think
definitely.
it's just going to be like this worldwide thing that everyone just taps into.
Well, I mean, there was a point where bands weren't making any money off their CD sales.
For sure.
when-
Yeah, they were
you know.
making like $1.
Right.
Hey, if they sold them for 18, like Metallica was like the highest paid. They
Oh
were
my
getting like what, $2 maybe?
Right. Yeah. Because at first it was radio play.
Yeah.
Then revenue got shifted from that. Now it's album sale. Then it was album sales, and even that was trickery because half the time the label was buying up most of the albums at first just so you would chart.
Yeah.
So you weren't getting that. You weren't getting that money, and then you got to recoup.
The recoup for sure.
Yeah. Well, there's a reason why they quote unquote spent $50,000, $60,000 on a recording that sounds like $10,000, or now that you can do with $5,000 worth of gear from Guitar Center, and get the same quality. It's just as time changes, it's unbelievable to see all these things. But I think about it, and I'm like, well, how many people never dove into the Cure's back catalog until they had Spotify?
Yeah.
Because you're not going to roll the dice. And let's be honest, when it comes to, I mean, they've got some cool album artwork. It's not it's not the catchy stuff that jumps off the shelf.
No.
I mean,
Like, look at this.
yeah, like
What
the
is
head
this?
on the door, yeah, looks like, a sloppy art project from a 4th grader. Yeah, Faith is a blurry picture of the woods. I mean, so when we were younger, you went and thumbed through the record store and you saw cool covers, you stopped.
Yeah. But like, I'm definitely buying Iron Maiden Killers.
Right. Yeah.
100%.
doubt.
I don't know what this sounds like, but I'm fucking buying it.
I need it in my
I
life
need it, yeah.
now.
$8? Definitely.
You have captured my heart. Yeah, I mean, artwork is huge, well, especially for metal. I mean,
Mhm.
without a doubt. But so these kids aren't gonna buy. Well, I mean, Boys Don't Cry album cover. They're gonna buy Boys Don't Cry because they know the song. But again, the artwork is it's nothing insane, and half the times it's a distorted picture of Robert Smith's face on
Like
Blood Flowers,
too.
Disintegration. It's him hiding there. Nothing fantastic. I mean, if it's my one criticism for the band, that's probably it.
Yeah.
Hey, like, who's your graphic designer?
I know. Fire them right now.
Yeah, for sure. Get rid of that guy. Now, those are your top 5 favorite albums. What would you say is your favorite Cure video? Being that we grew up in the video era.
So probably I'm going to go with Lullaby.
Okay.
I'm going to go with Lullaby off of Disintegration just because I had a thing with spiders growing up. I was a horror fan, and it was such a weird fucking video. There was like a lot of spider web, and
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. It was just I think that one for sure just always stuck with me. The song was haunting. I sent you that Just
Yep.
Jack thing. Did
Really
you ever hear
good.
that?
No, I've never
Pretty
heard
cool,
it before.
right?
We were listening to it while we were making dinner last night,
Yeah.
and Melissa and I were like, this is fucking cool.
Yeah. Great hook, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
awesome hook. And
Yeah.
then, the girl comes in, and I'm like, all right. I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
you got the singing, you
For
got
sure.
some good flow. And I'm like, well, clearly this guy, are they from,
It's only one guy, and
is he from
he's-
England?
Yeah.
Okay. Because sometimes the accent's hard to tell, especially when they're
I thought it was
singing
like
or
Billy
rapping.
Joe Armstrong.
Yeah, fake accent. I mean, I don't know. He could have been Australian.
Hello.
Hello, governor. What, mate? You just replace the second word. Hello.
Yeah, hello.
If it's governor, they're from England. If it's mate, they're from
There
Australia.
you go. I didn't know that,
Then
but
there's New Zealand.
I don't know.
That's
Noi.
again, similar. Like you could throw that.
Noi. Yeah, man.
That's
Lullaby.
also my favorite.
Oh, is it?
Yes. I my quick little note on it, it's like Tim Burton and John Carpenter
Oh.
had a baby.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know,
Very Tim Burton.
uncomfortable, artistic, creepy but beautiful, haunting.
That's when they were swaying me. So like I was 89, I guess we were like 11. So you would see the video and I'm like, "Oh, okay." So it was like Love Song,
Right.
probably Pictures of You, and then Lullaby, and Adam Curry would do the top 20 and you're like, this is kind of cool. Like I like
Yeah.
this. Like I know it's not Metallica or whatever I was listening to at the time. So by the time Wish came out, like I guess 3 years later, I was ready. I was 14 and then, like I was ready for that. Like I was mentally evolved, like I don't think I
Right.
could have gone backwards. Like if I would have heard Three Imaginary Boys at 11, I would have been like, I don't like this.
Yeah, exactly.
I just wasn't
sure.
ready for it.
Well, I mean, not only that, but at that point, had you even discovered punk yet? Would you even understand its roots?
No,
Right.
probably not. No, yeah.
Exactly. So it's you got to be ready for it.
You do.
And
I wasn't ready for Fugazi till like I was 20.
yeah.
I was like, wait, this isn't even Minor Threat. What is
You're like,
this?
what?
Yeah, Repeater. And then one day,
There's no sheep anywhere.
I think it was, yeah. At 20, I was like, one day I was like, okay, I get it. I fucking get it, and I love it.
See, for me, I went Fugazi first.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's weird.
It is, yes. So, all right, so I got into hardcore from metal and just from living in Lindenhurst. I mean, no, I didn't go to Lindenhurst High School until later because I was going to a private school. But I couldn't go to 7-Eleven without seeing a flyer, a sticker for, from Mind Over Matter, for Silent Majority. I mean, Tommy is the king of, stickers, graffiti. I mean, well, he never did graffiti on anything that wasn't his. Disclaimer.
Alleged.
So I loved metal. Then I kind of got into the hardcore scene, and it was more, Neglect, VOD. So again, on the heavier side, not the punk side. So, and then there was kind of a shift for me to some of that other stuff when Kill Your Idols came in, and we're like, okay, so here's the other side of the birth of hardcore, because you had your New York hardcore that was kind of like the tougher metal-y stuff. You had your like West Coast stuff, like DC, like had its own sound. So for me, I was kind of coming in from the Long Island and the like the tougher guy stuff, and then I kind of looped around and got into also punk, because now it was okay to also like punk.
Yeah.
Because you're talking mid 90s. Sometimes it was like the kid with the mohawk, the kid with the long hair, and the kid with the shaved head didn't go to the diner after the show together until way later.
Yeah, that was never the case. Yeah, there were like lines drawn. Because I always tell people I feel like Selden and Lindenhurst were like parallel universes. I don't know why, but like now meeting so many people from Lindenhurst, I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, you guys are just like old dirtbags like we were. Like we were just very metal influenced and, smoking weed in the woods somewhere. And then it's such an interesting parallel, when I would talk to George about it. Shout out to George Reynolds. We're
always.
out in Vegas.
In Vegas. Yeah. I actually bought a pair of earrings from him, from
Okay,
Melissa.
Cool. Yeah. Oh, cool.
Yeah, from his new company.
Yep.
So, no, it's not 516. I always want to say 516. I'm sorry,
515,
George.
yeah.
515.
Yes.
Jewelry. You can check them out. Really cool, original stuff. But yeah, I mean, George, to me, George is the godfather of Long Island hardcore. He is a front man I wanted to be like. It was a sound you wanted to get, but you couldn't because you can't imitate that. He believed in himself so much that I believed in him.
It's good on the mic.
Yeah. I mean, there's just no one better, whether it's prepared or off the cuff. Because, we'd yell stuff at, and he'd do his banter, but he also had his thing and his swagger.
Yeah.
and brilliant lyricist. Sometimes I'm like, man, what was going through your head? You know, similar to The Cure. Again, I'm always like, you know, lyrically, I'm like, I see that. I'm like, I wish I wrote that. I wish I said that. I wish I thought of that.
Yeah.
You know, so
I mean, that's the best part about listening to people, you know, either locally or just, you know, bands like The Cure. You know, it's always fun to be like, man, I wish I wrote that.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what keeps you inspired to just try, you know, to make stuff. It's like, oh man, that's so good. I want to do something too.
Okay, so as a musician and a songwriter, what imprint has The Cure put on you from a writing or performing or production standpoint?
I definitely writing, because it's not production, because we don't sound like them, and we definitely don't play
yeah, but
like
even
them
if
live.
it says like, oh, I want to put that like echo on like this, or I want that.
No, unfortunately, no. I know our place, and that's not it.
Stay in your lane.
But it as far as like songwriting, just the simplicity. Like sometimes simplicity is the best. And like I was talking about there, like memorable leads. Like sometimes we would be writing a song, and like let's say for our current lineup, you know, maybe Rich will be playing too many notes, and I'll be like, that's 8 notes, just play 4, because
Right.
you know, and that's kind of like I always cite Tom Capone from Quicksand. I always cite, you know, Joey Santiago from the Pixies and The Cure, just because the tastefulness is what we always try to like go with. It's like if it's only 3 notes, it's because that's what it needs.
Right.
You know?
Well, I mean, you guys have added keys and synths.
Yeah, for
recently.
sure. Yeah.
And I mean, if that's not
Yeah.
a Cure undertone, I don't know what is.
Yeah, very Cure, and we were just like, you know, we would always get Up Kid comparisons anyway. So
Yeah,
it was just like, you know, let's just go all for it. But it's been a lot of fun to have the synths as well, for sure.
No, definitely. I mean, again, it adds that stuff that you can do on a record, and now you can do it live.
Live? What's that?
Oh, I don't even know. Yeah, for real. This is the longest I've ever gone without
R.I.P.
seeing live music.
R.I.P.
We'll get back there. You know,
Yeah, but
this world has lived through many a plague.
listen, I can't say enough about Robert Smith as a songwriter, you know, and I could only wish to write something as good as you know, In Between Days, or like Trust, or like you know, just any of those fucking songs.
Yeah, I mean, oh God, to have
Oh, you know, another
a
thing
tenth
too.
of his.
Another thing too that I will say about his songwriting, which I am not there. Few bands are as confident in their songwriting as The Cure, because no band could have a 6.5 minute song with like 2.5 minutes of intro, and they're like, no worries, we'll start singing at the 3-minute mark,
yeah.
right?
Well, not only that, I mean, when you also look at like, I think at one point I have looked at like first tracks. Most of their first tracks on the, I mean, I'm gonna say from like the last 8 or 9 records, the first track is not shorter than 6 minutes.
Yeah,
Some of them are even, it's like 8 minutes.
but they don't even like. It's just the confidence in the songwriting that they're gonna get there, and you know, it's very hard to do. You know, like when I write a song, I'm like, oh my God, I need to have people's attentions right away. I need to start singing. I need to have this chorus in 45 seconds. And
Yeah, he lets it breathe.
he lets
where
it
needs
breathe,
to
man.
breathe,
Yeah.
and he lets the music be the
Yeah.
music, and you're never bored. You're never gonna. Yeah, it's
just like Heaven.
unbelievable.
I mean, just that's arguably their most popular song, and I mean that intro is fucking long.
Well, not only that, but he definitely is the polar opposite of the Beatles format.
Oh, for sure.
Verse, chorus, verse,
Yeah.
chorus, bridge, chorus.
Yeah.
Throw that out the window. That is not the Cure.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and yeah, you're right. I'm not paying attention to time whatsoever. I don't care how long this song is. I don't, you know.
It's like it's like a melodic trance that you're in.
Yeah.
You know, you hear that stuff and you're just kind of like, I don't know, it's amazing.
Yeah, you're on a musical car ride,
Yeah.
and you're not getting off till you hit your destination.
It's like a Pink Floyd thing too, you know, like that, where they just go on these fucking things for like 3 minutes, and you know, then they'll start singing. You're like, oh yeah, the words.
Right. But unlike Pink Floyd,
No, I know you hate Pink Floyd.
Well, I feel like you need to be on something
Yeah, yeah.
to
Hey.
like fully.
Doesn't hurt.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Like The Cure, I can listen to sober, drunk, again, tired, depressed, happy, doesn't
Yeah.
matter. When the song comes on, I'm ready to roll. Like when Fascination Street comes on, like sometimes I'm like, I would fucking dance in the street. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, the groove, you
Yeah.
know?
I mean, yeah, it's just that bass line is just so steady.
Favorite video? Yes, we touched
Favorite
on that.
album?
Favorite album. So I know you got two that are up there.
I got two, but I'm going to go with one, and it's this one right here. The Head on the Door.
The Head on the Door.
The Head on the Door, I think it's funny. So this is probably like their fifth record, maybe? Does that make sense? Or sixth? So Imaginary...
Probably should have wrote that down.
Seconds. The top, I would say they're fourth. Oh, no, Pornography. Number 5. Right?
I mean, yeah, so if it sits almost in the middle.
Yep.
I'm looking up on the old interwebs here.
Well, this right here, I think musically, it was between this and Wish. And Wish might have like a song or two I can get rid of. But this one is all killer, no filler. And I think musically, it's bright. I think the production's really good. The record sounds great. And it's just
fourth album.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Fifth. Yeah.
His fifth.
Yep. So, and it has the best songs, man, in between Days, Kyoto Song. The Blood has like a flamenco vibe to it. The music to this is so fucking good, man. This is definitely, and it's funny, like I said, some bands come out the gate swinging and they give you their best stuff in like the first few records. But for me, the fifth record was the one that did it. And it's interesting when that happens. Maybe, so maybe when you come up with a band in the beginning, like let's say we were teenagers in 79, maybe we would have more of an affinity to those earlier records because that's how we heard it. That's how we remember it. Mm-hmm. And from Imaginary Boys to this, you'd be like, I don't know, this is different. Well,
that's what I'm saying too. Like Simon Gallup came in around 17 seconds, that album. So then, you had Faith, you had Head on the Door, Pornography and Head on the Door. So that's where I'm like, I feel like he helped add a direction or he helped Robert just go in the direction that he needed to because he needed that other piece aside him or something.
For sure.
Because there is a driving force to those bass lines. And now, I know Robert's writing the songs and coming to him, but we don't know what they sound like when they come to the floor.
Yeah.
And as opposed to where they end up.
Yeah.
He definitely, I think, has a driving force.
No. And because you have, like, you write the songs, I write the songs, but it's the band, too. The band brings them to life.
Yeah.
Like the people you have around you are the ones that are going to be bringing that song to life. So maybe that is the case. But also, as you write more and more songs, you just get better and you kind of find your direction, which I think they found on Pornography and Head.
Yes.
I feel like those two records showed what their future was going to be like.
And then that's where my favorite album comes in.
Okay.
Disintegration.
Disintegration's great, yeah.
I mean,
I think that's a mixture of the two, to be honest with you. Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
So it's... You found this, you found that, and then you married the two of them, and you have Disintegration.
Disintegrate, yeah.
Which is a fucking roller coaster of an album.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the album. There's no bad song. The production is phenomenal.
Great production.
It's just, there's nothing wrong with it. And you could tell me Head on the Door, you could tell me Wish. And I'm not going to argue with, I'm not even going to argue with anybody's what their favorite is. Everybody chooses what they pick for it. So, like my friend Joe is a big Cure fan. 17 Seconds is his favorite because it was his first introduction.
Yeah.
It's the first. It's the first album he bought of theirs.
That-
He's a little bit older than us too,
That'll happen.
so I get it. You
Yeah.
know, totally makes sense. You know, again, the bands that come out right out of the gate with that album, but then there's also that first album that you got of that band that a lot of people hold dear. It's the Metallica syndrome.
No, for sure.
Black Album is not their best record,
No.
but it's so many people's gateway
If you
and
go in
love
there, yeah,
because it's
yeah.
the one that they bought
Yeah.
first.
The difference is though, like with this is like I feel like those first two records are so different than I mean, especially the first record to what I feel like they really hit that stride on pornography and Head on the door. And I feel like I don't know, I feel like that's when like the Cure that I knew. Because when I went backwards and I got to like those first few records, I'm like, this is cool. But it's kind of like when I heard Depeche Mode and went back to the beginning, I'm like, yeah, I don't know if I could do this earlier stuff, but like, you know,
Right.
everything from like 88 on, I could fuck with. Yeah, but I mean, but it was fun going back and listening to, you know, Boys Don't Cry and Imaginary, because it just, those are songs that I never really listened to that much. And there was some cool stuff on there, but
Yeah, I mean, it helps set the table.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
and that's fine.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give
Pornography.
you a top 5 of my deep cuts.
Do it.
Okay. No particular order. Cut Here, which was on that Greatest Hits double album that also had like the acoustic stuff on it. It was the new track that was on it.
Greatest hits.
You know the one where the stars are like
Yes.
hanging things and
Oh,
just
yeah,
got his
yeah.
hands open like
Yes.
it was like a double CD.
Yeah.
The second one had like acoustic and alternate versions of the songs,
Okay.
and Cut Here was one of the new songs on it. That
Okay.
they're like, okay, we're gonna drizzle this in.
Sure. A lot of bands do that.
Right, and it's just a fucking killer driving song. I mean, it could have been, you know, could have been a first song or a last song on any of their albums, and would have been totally fine. But great song.
I gotta refresh my.
Yeah.
I don't. It's not ringing a bell, but I know that record.
When you hear the song and you hear the hook and the opening part, you're gonna be, oh,
Okay.
yeah, definitely. Then Just One Kiss, which was on the Let's Go to Bed single. It was the flip side to Let's Go to Bed. Really catchy song. You know, nothing like Let's Go to Bed either. But again, that's what I love about them. Side A and side B are going to be nothing like each other, and they're both good in their own ways. An overlooked song, which we did not mention off the first album, Fire in Cairo.
Oh wow, that's like my least favorite song.
But there,
Why?
really?
Yeah. FIRE. You see it? Yeah.
Well, first of all, like someone that can just spell out those words like that in a catchy way, it's like kudos, bro.
yeah.
Like, you know, I'm lucky. Sometimes I spell my name incorrectly when I'm writing it on my water bottle at work.
ANTO.
So, I love that song. It's the melody. There's something about it. I do love that song. Again, a song that
little
I
catchy.
didn't like at one point, or I would skip past.
Sure.
Now I like. Burn
Oh yeah.
from the Crow soundtrack.
Sure.
I mean, probably one of the greatest songs written for a movie ever.
That is a good song. Yeah.
You know, and especially knowing it was written for the movie. From what I read, they did not get to see the whole thing. They kind of got snippets. They got storyline. They, you know, and that's what came from it. And it's, oh my God. I mean, when they play it live, it's just crazy.
They do it live. Yeah.
That song is, I can't say enough. I fucking love that song. I
Might
love
be
that
the best
movie.
song on the soundtrack.
It's definitely the best song on the soundtrack.
Yeah.
I think. And that's a great soundtrack.
Yeah.
I know that one was ranked pretty damn high on the Red River podcast.
It was. Yeah. People love that one.
Didn't that make it?
I don't
didn't make
remember.
It
Maybe it did. I don't know.
it was definitely in the in the top 3. I can't remember what won though.
Probably like Judgment Night, right?
No, Judgment Night didn't win, even though
That's
you
what we
did an entire episode on it. So for those of you that are listening that have never listened to the Red River podcast, definitely do that because there's some fantastic stuff about movies, music,
You were on there.
culture. I am on there. We covered.
Didn't you do 2 episodes or just one?
No, just one. We covered the 1999 movies and albums.
Malamo?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Shout out to Mike Malamo. And then Pillbox Tales, which was actually recorded in 1979.
Yeah.
I don't think made it onto Boys Don't Cry.
No, but
was
it's on Join the Dots.
And it's also on the remix side of Boys Don't Cry. It was the flip side of the in '86.
Okay.
For Boys Don't Cry. Different song for them. Still sounds like them. Super catchy. Definitely gets overlooked. Maybe because it's not on one of the big albums or on any of their actual full lengths. But this is a band that, if you haven't looked at the singles, the remixes, 100%.
It's crazy. Like, they're like, seriously, not even just because we're talking about them on a fucking podcast, but like their B-side collection. And that's why I love that 4-disc thing, which is up on Spotify as well. Join the Dots. It's like, man, if you want to just dive into like deep cuts, B-sides, yeah,
demos,
really cool stuff. And another thing I remember, I had Show. I would listen to Show all the time. I had that cassette, and that had, I guess it was probably around the Wish tour, so it was pretty Wish heavy as well, which is probably another reason why in '93, like, I was very skewed towards that record.
I definitely stole that poster for that off the
Show?
wall
Yeah.
of Looney Tunes way back in the day.
Yeah.
I was like, zoink, kind of folded it, put it in my jacket.
Yo, statute limitations, son.
Yeah. Try and come at me.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate you doing this with me. My only thing I've ever done podcast-wise is being on the Red River podcast. And, I wanted to have you on for the first one to kind of to pop my cherry and just shoot the shit. Through all this, we haven't gotten to hang out or do much, so I really appreciate you being here tonight. This was a lot of fun.
Thanks for having me.
It's something I've wanted to do for a while, so I'm glad we got to kick it off.
Yeah. You get to
in
do
person.
this.
We're safely distant from each other.
For sure. No, but this is something you wanted to do, and now you get a chance to go through the discography and just take it from there. So it'll be fun to have other people on. So I really do think, I love the fact that you mentioned Langan from Red River. I think he would be great. He would love this.
Yeah, definitely. There's so many people I definitely plan on reaching out to and having on, and with 13 records, I don't know if I'll do 13 episodes. There's a couple albums I feel like I can probably group together. But even then, maybe kind of in the end on the send off, maybe have you back on to touch on another record or so down the road. But again, thanks so much. Red River Podcast. Got to check it out. Playing Dead. Check out that band for sure. I know you guys are working on some new stuff.
We are.
All right.
Yeah.
Excellent.
With 2 different drummers.
Yeah. Can I ask why?
Steve left.
He did leave. Okay.
But that's fine because Steve, we finished the record and, I think he just wanted to play heavier music.
Right.
And
we're like Eskimo brothers that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Steve was technically the first drummer of Taking Back Sunday.
Yes, he was. So he, he was with us for a while. And, more power to him. There's no show. So at this point, it's like, whatever. So I had these 16 songs, but 5 of them were kind of different. They were more like mellow singer-songwriter type songs. So we started playing with our friend Vito from Lindenhurst. And we're like, cool, we'll just record these 5 songs and do like a Jar of Flies type thing.
Right.
So he was getting them down so fast that I was like, you know what? I'm like, we do have these other 5 songs we were playing from this batch. So let's get another drummer to play more in the Playing Dead vein.
Right.
So that we asked our friend Chris Nolte to do it. So now we have We practice every week, but they practice every other week. So
Gotcha.
1 week we'll do the 5 quiet songs.
What's on the rap?
Yeah. So
neither one of them are technically a member of Playing Dead yet, or may or may not be.
yeah, it's not like right now we haven't really thought. We have nothing to
Right. You're not
so
necessarily planning for
yeah.
a big show.
Yeah, so right now we're just like, oh, let's make a record, and he was like, cool, and then Chris is like, let's make a record, and we're like, cool.
All right. Good. Well, I heard you hint on it on the interwebs, but I was like, I gotta ask him why it's 2 drummers. I was like, do you need double bass in one and one guy can't play double bass?
I was just like, I'm impatient, and if I write something, it's like, let's just do it. So it's like,
yeah. Now I also know that you're not necessarily doing the "If I Ruled the World" podcast anymore with George Reynolds, but George is still doing that.
George just started
brought it back. Right?
Yeah. We because I was already doing Red River, so when George moved, he was like, I want to just keep doing it.
Yeah.
I don't want to be on the phone. I don't want to be on the phone with
totally.
him. I don't want to be on so that 3 people, 4 people on the phone. So I knew that it was his brainchild, and we just were like, fuck it, just do it in Vegas.
Cool. So if you're listening, you haven't listened to that one. Also, If I Ruled the World, also another really great podcast that I'm a big fan of. So this is the thing that I've kind of started to love about podcasts is we're stuck now in a world where we can't really see all our friends. We're stuck in a world that texts instead of makes phone calls. So when I listen to these podcasts, I feel like I'm having conversations with my friends, and that's what I wanted this to be. So we're fans, we're all friends. This is a way for us to have a conversation without hanging out and having a conversation. So I got to actually have this conversation. So again, thank you so much, Sam. Sam is a musician I look up to, a friend I adore, and a podcaster who kicks ass. So check that out. Thank you so much for listening to Fascination Street. I'm Antonio Longo.
First episode, bong bong.
Booyah! Thank you guys. Good night.
May bring you back to earth. We spin rope around your waist. You turn, you smile, you flirt.